You have worked hard, you've saved consistently, built a solid portfolio, and yet you still wonder, what if I'm missing something? What if I am not ready? And this feeling is normal. You're not alone. In fact, it's a sign that you are probably prepared or more prepared than most people. And after tons of conversations with prospects and clients, we have seen this pattern time and time again. The people who worry the most are most often the most prepared. So let's start here. Retirement is not just a simple math problem or equation. In fact, it's a major identity shift. You are going from the accumulation, the growth and wealth accumulation phase of life to the distribution phase of life. And this is big. Having that anxiety is normal. But what can we do about it? You are moving from earning a paycheck to creating your own paycheck. You're moving from saving every single month to spending down your life's work. You're moving from the feeling of maybe feeling productive at work. There's a sense of feeling productive there, to wondering, what do I do now? How do I create purpose? And this kind of transition, going from the working stage of life to retirement, can trigger fear, it can trigger doubt, and it can even sometimes trigger guilt. No matter your portfolio size, people have the same questions. And that is, can I really afford to do this? Can you afford to transition into a period of retirement that could last 25, 30, 35 years? So let's go through what being prepared actually looks like. Here are the 5 signs that we see all the time. Sign number 1, you know what you spend. Tracking your budget and knowing exactly what you spend pre-retirement is a huge advantage come retirement. Ultimately, your personal balance sheet, while it can often be overlooked and seen as maybe not important, is one of the most important things to the foundation of how you live and spend in retirement. Sign number 2, you have been saving across multiple account types. Do you have a brokerage account? Do you have an employer-sponsored plan? If not, do you have an IRA, tax-deferred IRA? Do you have a Roth IRA? Having multiple account types allows for flexibility from both a spend perspective as well as a tax perspective in retirement. To learn more about what I'm talking about, check out the video linked here on the screen. We go through our withdrawal strategy on this video, and we discuss the tax allocation and location of your different assets and how you're going to withdraw money in retirement. Sign number 3, you've paid off your major debts, or at least have a plan to pay off those debts. Hopefully, the only debt that you have when you're thinking about retirement and you're at the point of retirement is a mortgage, if not any debt at all. Now, you should have a clear plan to pay that off. Paying off debt changes everything. In retirement, having those lower fixed costs means that you can produce lower income in retirement and live a very similar lifestyle as your pre-retirement working years. Sign number 4, you ask smart questions. Now, there are no dumb questions here. What I mean by this is you're asking questions like, how should you take your income? From where do you take your income? Where do you start? What does your tax situation look like today and once you retire, and then throughout retirement? Do Roth conversions make sense for you? These questions are the questions that you should be thinking about, and they're rooted in having a plan. Sign number 5, you aren't expecting those double-digit returns forever. And in fact, you've stress tested your plan against what happens if you retire and we go into a market similar to that of the Great Recession or COVID-19 or rising interest rates in 2013. How does that impact your portfolio? Have you modeled modest returns and inflation spikes into your plan? As Murphy Rule states and suggests, when you retire, odds are you're going to enter a market with unfavorable market returns. And as history shows, we see at least a 10% drop in the market per year. So, are you properly planning for this? Have you stress tested your portfolio? Guys, if you've nodded your head to, 2 or 3 of these signs, then you're probably on the right track for a good retirement. And in fact, you're probably more prepared than you actually think. Being prepared or starting your journey to being prepared is great. But along the way, you might ask yourself, what does not being prepared look like? Let's take a look at that. Let's flip the script and go over what preparedness isn't. And that is having a magic number just for the sake of having a magic number. Maybe your neighbor says, hey, you need $1 million to retire. Maybe you see on TV that you need 2 million to retire. Maybe your friend down the street says, hey, you actually need $500,000 to live a good retirement. Where does this number come from? Why do you have this number? Number 2, perfectly timing the market. Sure, it might seem like a prudent strategy to buy low and sell high, but it's an elusive one that can actually often lead to lower returns over the long run. Number 3, chasing returns or sectors of the market because you think you might beat the market over a long period of time. The reality is, retirement, again, is no longer about the growth and accumulation phase. Rather, you're in the distribution phase where you can't afford to take on unnecessary risk if you are going to be relying on your portfolio for income in retirement. And lastly, getting every decision 100% correct. Guys, in what situation have you gotten 100% of all decisions correct the first time? Sure, we need to be intentional about this. We need to think about all the factors that we can think about. But the reality is, preparedness relative to your portfolio into your retirement is not going to be perfect. Rather, preparedness is about having clarity and flexibility in your plan, knowing that life throws curveballs and can change. How does your plan and portfolio adapt to that change? And with that in mind, living a life well lived in retirement is derived from having a plan that is suited and custom to you and your unique long-term goals. Now, what does this plan involve? How can you go from this feeling of uncertainty to having clarity in retirement? Well, doing the following can help greatly in creating a plan suited for your retirement goals. Create a monthly income plan and include it in your retirement plan. Create a tax plan that encompasses your entire plan, both from an investment perspective as well as an income perspective. Understand inflation and how it can chew away at your purchasing power, and understand the often overlooked healthcare expenses. How does that change pre-retirement up until the age of 65 when Medicare kicks in, and then throughout retirement? Number 4, define a clear withdrawal strategy. Where are you pulling your income from, and is that income sustainable throughout retirement? And lastly, stress test your plan to plan for uncertainty. Again, what happens if we enter a market like that Great Recession or COVID-19 or the rising interest rates in 2013? When you have these elements in place, even if your plan continues to change, you will go from a place of uncertainty. Your mind will go from that place of uncertainty to a place of clarity. So if you're sitting there wondering, am I behind? Pause for a second. If you've saved consistently, if you've tracked your spending, you are asking the right questions. You are doing the right things. You are not behind. You're aware, and this awareness can actually lead to action. So I invite you to start creating your free retirement plan in the description. We can't wait to see you there. And until next time, thank you so much.